Fantastic. All right. Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class, Yalkut Yosef, the halachot of Tefilat Amidah. We're going to discuss a few things today, hopefully, that we'll manage. One of them is praying in your heart, Tefilah Balev. Another one is praying while somebody else around you is praying. Now you want to do a Shalom. Are you allowed to get into a space? What if you just don't want to get into a space, but you just want to sit down? Is there a difference between sitting or passing because you want to get a book or because you need to step out? What am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do in front of someone that's praying? So we'll discuss that today. But it's perfect that just now Mr. Johnny Laloy joined us because Johnny's custom recently has been to give me homework, and I'm very grateful. So today, Be'ezrat Hashem, Baruch Haba Johnny.
Thank you.
Today we'll attempt to answer one of the questions, Be'ezrat Hashem. I see also Simon has joined us. Baruch Haba Simon. So the question that Johnny asked that we'll discuss before we dive in. By the way, the questions is a blessing, meaning I feel like it's important to talk about the questions because practically people mostly remember the questions. When someone is speaking all the time, how much percent can you remember? But there's a question, so hopefully this you will remember in the schut of Johnny. Maybe later we'll share
I,
also the
I have a
question
list.
that
I
Igor.
have a list of questions if
Yeah.
you want.
Baruch Hashem. A partner to your questions is Igal. He also asked us a question today. So, with your permission, Igal, maybe we'll reveal that as well. Let's see. Bezat Hashem. So, let's begin first with the past homework. Johnny asks us regarding Yom Kippurim, are we allowed to pray in a foreign language? Some people don't understand. They read just the English. This came up because we were mentioning in the last class that it's best to pray in Hebrew than to pray in gibberish, which means, reading English letters that are verbalizing Hebrew, So we maybe assumed from that it's a problem to pray in English or not. Johnny said, no. In America, they tell us on Yom Kippurim to read the Vidu in English. So is that mutar asur? What if we don't understand Hebrew? So Yalkut Yosef didn't really dive into this. And I think after doing a little research, it's not a simple answer. It's a little complicated, but we'll get an answer at the end. So let's begin. Now we're going to learn what the Chacham.
Can I interrupt you? Are we talking about transliteration or in English? Like sometimes in a Siddur, you see in English vocabulary, but you're talking Baruch, B-A-R-U.
That's fantastic. If you
Are we talking about that? Or are we talking about actually translating it?
No, we're not talking about that. If you can do that, if you can read in Hebrew and then just with your mind look at the translation, that's the best. But what do people do that cannot read Hebrew, or it's going to take them hours to read Hebrew? And apparently Johnny was saying that in Yom Kippurim, the big vidui over there, they allowed everybody to read in English. So we that's how the topic came up. So the way of giving halacha is usually from the sources. We go all the way back to the Gemara. The Gemara in Masechet Sotah says that you are allowed to pray. It lists a few things that you're allowed to do in different languages, and one of them is Tefilah. So according to this Gemara, no problem. We could pray Tefilah in any language, English, Hebrew, whatever it is. But what's the problem? As usual, the Gemara makes it difficult. The Gemara, a little bit after that, says, no, the angels don't understand Aramaic, and therefore you cannot pray in Aramaic. And the Gemara concludes, how could it be? Now we're saying we can't pray in a foreign language. Before we said that we can pray in any language. The Gemara says, you know what the conclusion is? There's a difference between someone praying alone and someone praying in a tzibur. What's the difference? When you're in a tzibur, there's a zechut of the tzibur. The zechut of the tzibur allows you to pray anything that you want. It's okay. It goes up because you have the zechut of the tzibur. There's the Gemara. If you're alone, you don't have the zechut of the tzibur, and if you're alone, you're not allowed to speak in a foreign language, and you can't read in Aramaic. You can only read in Hebrew. That's the Gemara. However, the Rishonim, right, if the Gemara ended somewhere around 1600 years ago, came after that to have the Geonim for 500 years. After the Geonim came the Rishonim. So the Rishonim lived from, say, roughly 1,000 years ago. That's the time of the Rambam, the Rif, the Rosh, and all those. So the Rishonim have a big machloket how to understand this Gemara. One of them that lived in Spain, Rabbeinu Yonah, says, what are you talking about? You want to tell me that the Gemara says that someone praying alone cannot pray in a foreign language? He learns from the rabbis of France that we're talking about the women. How many women pray at home on Yom Kippur? Or generally, they don't know how to read Hebrew, and they don't go to Minyan. So what are you going to say, that these women cannot pray because they don't know Hebrew, and they don't go to Minyan, they're never going to pray? What are you going to say? And therefore, what is his conclusion? No, what the Gemara meant to say is that tefillot that people make up on their own. Hashem, please help me with this. Hashem, please help me with that. That type of tefillah is a tefillah that you cannot pray in any language. That has to be in the holy letters, Ivrit. But when you're praying a written tefillah that Chachamim fixed for us, if you're reading just the translation, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, no problem. That's a lenient opinion. Even more lenient than Rabbeinu Yonah comes another rabbi called the Rosh, which we've learned about as well, one of the 3 pillars of the Shulchan Aruch. And says the Rosh, no, when the Gemara said the angels don't understand Aramaic, and therefore the whole discussion became about what's going to be, and we concluded, no, if you're alone, it's okay, and if you're in a group, if you're alone, it's not okay, if you're a group, it is okay. Says the Rosh, no. The Gemara said Aramaic, she meant specifically Aramaic that the angels don't understand. But English, Polish, Turkish, Persian, any other language you want to pray, even when you're alone, you can pray. Only Aramaic is the problem. This is the most lenient opinion according to the Rosh. Unless you're speaking Aramaic, which I don't know how many people speak Aramaic today. There's a village in Israel that over there they speak Aramaic. It's a small village. My friend's father comes from that village. He speaks Aramaic. But how many people speak Aramaic and pray to Hashem in Aramaic? So generally, this gives a green light to everybody. Last opinion, the Rif. The Rif is one of the people that are kind of on the border between the Geonim and the Rishonim, lived about 1,000 years ago. And the Rif holds, no, I understand the Gemara just like it says, Yachid, when you're alone, you are forbidden to pray in a foreign language, only when you are in a group. Anybody want to guess what the Shulchan Aruch was posek like? Whose opinion did he take? He took the Rif's opinion. He took the most strict opinion that really la halacha, if you are alone, you cannot pray. So according to what we were asking, Johnny's question, someone is reading the Tefilah of Yom Kippur. If he's not in the Knesset with a minyan, if he's alone praying at home, according to the dry halacha of the Shulchan Aruch, you are not allowed to pray in English. But if you are in a minyan, then no question. Once you have the zchut of the tzibur, by the way, we learned from this, what a zchut is it to pray in the tzibur. When you have the group with you, it's like, one rabbi said, it's like going through customs. When you're alone, they check everything, open your bag. But when 1,000 people go through customs, they're going to stop all of you now. It's okay, pass, digeh, what's it? So that's the zchut of the tzibur. And that's the psak of the Shulchan Aruch. Having said that, not everybody agrees with the Shulchan Aruch. The Achronim, the rabbis that came after the Shulchan Aruch, someone said, no, we hold like what the Rosh said, that only Aramaic is a problem, but any other language is okay. And others understood, Shulchan Aruch, you're being too strict. What the Gemara said, that only in public you can read any language, but not privately, that's just a recommendation. But really, halacha, you could do whatever you want. So if you want to know what the dry halacha is, according to Shulchan Aruch, the dry halacha is that if you're alone, you can't pray in a foreign language, but if you're in public, you can. But know that many people went against that psak and hold differently. And therefore, Johnny, your question was not a question that could have been answered on the spot in 2 seconds. It's a little bit complicated, but I think the process of reaching the halacha.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
Is this just for Amidah, or if I'm at home and something's bothering me and I'm just praying to Hashem, just a random, from the heart? Is it referring to that as well?
So according to what opinion was it here? I wrote this down.
The Rosh.
We had the Rosh that says that only Aramaic is a problem. So you have different opinions that you could lean on. And what were we talking about? So the source in the Gemara mentioned not just Tefilah. It also mentioned Birkat Hamazon and mentioned a few more things that you are allowed to read. It didn't talk about personal prayers. Therefore, the topic of personal prayers, there's still room to ask about. But as I said, at the end of the day, unless you're a person that goes 100% with the Shulchan Aruch, which is a blessing, but there's room for leniencies. You can lean on other opinions. If someone wants to pray from the heart and he doesn't speak Hebrew, I'm not going to come and say, don't do that. Shulchan Aruch says don't. I'm not saying do or don't. I'm just saying there are other opinions. And if something is cooking in his heart, I think, don't hold back. But who are we? So we have the Shulchan Aruch, but we have the Achronim. We're not cholek on the Shulchan Aruch. We're just saying that we can lean on other opinions as well. So there's room for leniencies in this. That was one question. Igal also asked me a question today. Igal, remind me the question we were talking about.
No, we had a Chazan come read the Torah. That was an Ashkenaz Chazan that any vav, he was pronouncing it like a yud.
Right. Elekaini, velekavataini, elekavraham, like
Yeah.
I've been to minyanim like that. So because last time we said in the class that if you are an Ashkenazi minyan and they ask you to be a chazan and you have to read the way they read, say, sorry, I don't want to be chazan. So from here came the question, am I yotzei yedei chova if someone is a chazan and he's praying like that? Halacha lemaaseh is, you're yotzei yedei chova, even if Ashkenazi comes to a Sephardi shul and, and he reads the Torah in that tune. Obviously, we would like to have something that reads it in our way, but it's fine. The only time, Igal, don't answer, the only time that we say people halacha is you have to hear a chazan reading in your own custom or in your own tune is when there's only one reading of the Torah that it has to be like that. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Parashat Zachor. I don't know if you've ever been to a minyan, because usually you go pray with the mashadim. But in Israel, a lot of shuls are mixed. I go to Ashkenazi shul sometimes. We have Yemenites, we have Persian. Everybody, it's all a mix here. So what happens? Every Shabbat, usually they read according to the minhag of the Bet Knesset, Ashkenazi shul. They read Ashkenazi. Shabbat Zachor, everybody reads. You have 4 different readers that go up to the stage and read Parashat Zachor, so that the Persians are covered, the Moroccans, all them. Why? Because you have to hear it in your language. But unless it's Shabbat Zachor, the person that read it, you're Yotzei de Chova, and no problem. All right, Chazaku Baruch, thank you guys for the homework. And now we'll dive back to where we stopped. So, one last thing regarding the issue of Ashkenazi Sfaradi is a very interesting psak that the Yalkut Yosef brings. He says like this. He says, if you are an Ashkenazi that lived, let's say, in France or whatever it is, and you made Aliyah Eretz Yisrael because you came from a house that wasn't Shomer Shabbat, and you decided to become Shomer Shabbat now, am I allowed to accept the halachot of the Sephardim? I'm Ashkenazi, but I don't have a tradition. My parents didn't keep anything. Am I allowed to go with the Sephardim? I like the Sephardim. I want to be Sephardi. The answer is yes. It's surprising. I don't think he would say the other for a Sephardi that wants to become Ashkenazi, but for a Ashkenazi that wants to become a Sephardi, he allows it. And I know a rabbi like that in Ra'anana that became a big Baal Tshuva. Now he gives shiurim. You sit like this. You're hypnotized. Unbelievable. And he goes to the Sephardi minyan and he prays Sephardi, and his name is Rabbi Blounstein. That doesn't sound too Persian to me. What's the explanation? You have Utalina, and if you like the Sephardim, you could go with the Sephardim.
Wait, Ziv, are you serious when you said the Sephardi cannot become Ashkenazi, or it's a joke?
No. Meaning, according to the Yalkut Yosef, he mentions that if an Ashkenazi wants to take upon, he always says that you should follow your customs.
No, I got that, but
listen.
The opposite works also? If a Sephardi, from a Sephardi family?
He doesn't say, or maybe he says and I didn't see, but it seems like that would be a problem. How many Sfaradim don't have a tradition? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a Reform Sephardi shul? Sfaradim usually have some sort of tradition. Maybe they don't keep, but they have tradition. They know my grandfather was there. But what happened in Europe, the Haskalah, the movement of the, I don't know how you call it in English, the Haskalah, where all the wise people that took a new direction and started making changes in Judaism, that was more in the Ashkenazi world. The Sephardi world didn't have that. There's a tradition. Most Sephardim have the tradition. So it's more relevant for Ashkenazim, and I think that's why he mentions an Ashkenazi that didn't have the background and he wants to come in, he could make the choice if he would like. All right. Next topic, Siman. Ilan, Baruch haba, long time no see. Ilan, your nephew was over our house last Shabbat. He was talking about you.
Oh, Yehuda?
Yeah, we had the split of having him. A few guys came over. Hashem. He was saying,
yeah, he's loving it. He's having a great time there. Thank you for hosting him.
He told me you grow mints or basil in your garden or something like that.
Yeah. I'm very into the gardening.
Yeah, you're sitting over there, but in Israel, everybody's talking about you, Ilan. That's how it is. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so now to the topic of the day. What happens when someone is praying Amidah? This is such a common topic. You want to walk into Bet Knesset, the guy came late, so he didn't want to bother others, so he's standing in the entrance. Now I can't enter. Am I allowed to pass before? Am I not? A lot of discussion around this. So let's get into details, Be'ezrat Hashem. All right. So, that was Siman Kaf Bet. Just one little thing in Siman Kuf Aleph. Sorry, Kuf Bet. I want to read Kuf Aleph first. I forgot one line here. Regarding the Amidah, now that we're about to enter the Amidah and someone praying and how we can or can't disturb him, I think we've mentioned this before, but just in case. What's the source for the Amidah? Where do we learn how to pray Amidah? The source is from Hannah. Remember the story in Sefer Shemuel? Hannah was praying to Hashem for a child and she was crying. And until then, it wasn't accustomed, I guess, to cry and talk while your mouth is moving. People would just do it in their heart. And Elia Cohen saw her and thought she was drunk and told her, what are you doing? Ad matai tishtachin, until when are you drinking? And she says, no, I'm not drunk. My heart is broken and I was praying to Hashem. And from her, we learned so many halachot, which is interesting. We're learning from a woman. We learned that you have to, when you pray, you have to move your lips. In fact, I saw this week that the Chidah brings down what's the importance of moving your lips and not just, reading it like in your heart. And he explains that the Hebrew letters are so holy that when two of them or three of them or whatever it is make a connection, they create a new being. So when you're just reading it in your heart, you're not making the creations that you're making with your Tefilah. But when you verbalize, when your lips are moving, and the otiyot chot, he says the letters cut one into the other, you are creating something that is going up. These are spiritual things, but whatever it is, we understand that there's importance to it. According to the Arizal, there's another importance that people seeing you, they get motivated. Oh, this guy, he's praying, he's verbalizing, he's saying, not just, like a robot. But either way, that's the source. And there's a big machloket whether when I'm praying Amidah, specifically Amidah, not only cutting my lips, but am I supposed to be able to hear myself or not? Everybody agrees that if you say it loud enough that you're bothering others, no. But are you supposed to hear yourself? So according to the simple interpretation of the Shulchan Aruch, yes. According to the Kabbalah, it's a problem to hear yourself. You can follow who you think. A lot of people follow the Kabbalah in this, that you don't actually hear yourself, you just move your lips. But the Yalkut Yosef says that Ikar Halacha is that you should, meaning according to the simple Halacha is, at least a little bit you should hear yourself. Again, if you're praying in public, if you hear yourself, the guy next to you is going to hear also, so it's a problem. But know that there are opinions to hear and opinions to hear. All right, now regarding the Arba Amot of the Mitpalel, the 2 meters, 6-7 feet around the person praying. What can and can't I do? So if someone is praying, if you remember when we had one of our tests on Tefilah, when we began the halachot, we mentioned a few reasons to why it would be a problem to be in front of somebody that is praying. One of them was that there's Shekhinah. When someone is praying, the divine presence is before him, and therefore we should forbid it. Another opinion said, no, it's not the divine presence. You're just disturbing him. He won't be able to focus. All right? And according to this, maybe there's a problem only right in front of him because he's disturbed. But if I'm behind him, then there won't be any problem. I'm not disturbing him. But according to the opinion that around him, the Shekhinah is dwelling for Amod, then it would be a problem all over. By the way, the Zohar holds like that it's not just in front of him, but according to the Pshat, the main problem is in front of him. So we'll see. So now what about sitting? Before we get to passing by. Sitting, all right? Am I allowed to sit in front of someone that he's praying Amidah? He's praying a long time, and now, I want to sit down. I'm tired. Can I sit down in front of him? So, halacha is that if you're right in front of him, it would be a problem to sit. Now, I heard on the side note that if you're sitting for a mitzvah, for example, you want to say vidui, tachanun, you have to sit down, le David, you want to say it sitting down. Then, okay, it's part of what you need to do. So he's doing a mitzvah, you're doing a mitzvah, it's okay. But generally, if you're just sitting because you're tired or whatever it is, it's a problem to sit right before him. Okay? Some even hold that not just up to 2 meters, but even until the end of the room. Don't sit exactly before the guy that is praying. But what happens if I'm already sitting and now the guy behind me stands up, starts praying Amidah? He was late and now I want to sit. Is it my fault? Do I have to stand up now or no? What do you think?
If you're already sitting, no, you just stay sit.
So if I'm already sitting, I don't have to stand up unless I'm sitting and not doing anything. If I'm sitting reading the Siddur, if I'm sitting reading Torah, that's it. We're both doing a mitzvah. But if I'm sitting, chilling, scrolling through my phone, and the guy comes behind me and starts praying Amidah, even though it sounds strange, I have to stand up because he's praying Amidah. It's not cool. He shouldn't do that. But if I'm not doing anything, then I cannot stay sitting down. Most likely, if you're in Bet Knesset, you're not just sitting and chilling, but if that would be the case, then you would have to stand up.
Steve, are we talking about, we're not talking about the repetition here. We're talking about the.
Oh no, the regular Amidah. A guy is praying Amidah, but these halachot, by the way, they apply to the Chazan also, meaning if the Chazan is praying now Amidah, people don't notice so many times people pass before the Chazan, behind the Chazan. It's the same thing. He's also, the Shekhinah is in front of him, right? So you can't pass before him. But either way, right now we're talking about a personal guy that's standing behind you praying Amidah. How am I restricted? What can and can't I do?
Does this apply also to like in you have seats, one in front of each other, and people stand up, and you have somebody sitting in front of you standing.
Very good question. Very good question. We're going to touch that. We're going to talk about a mechitza. If there's a glass mechitza, not even a seat is small, but even if it's like a wall, but it's a transparent wall where I could see him, can I sit down? So we'll leave you in a little bit of tension for a few minutes until you get your answer. All right. Now, what happens in a similar situation like we mentioned right now, but it's not in Bet Knesset. It's in my house. I'm sitting on my couch, and the guy behind me, a child, a family member, a wife, they start praying Amidah, right? In that case, even if I'm sitting and not doing anything, I don't have to get up. The only reason we forced me to get up is because I was in Bet Knesset. Bet Knesset is a place of prayer. So if you're not there to pray and the guy is standing Amidah, get up. But at home, you're allowed to sit. Therefore, we don't force you. Side note says the Shulchan Aruch, the Yalkut Yosef, but it's nice if you stand. Meaning, understand at the end of the day that some opinions hold that the Shekhinah is before him. You want to be right, you're allowed to sit. But if you can stand, better. That's the opinion.
Is that if you're praying beyachid, or if there's a minyan? Like, what if there's a minyan in someone's house?
So it doesn't have the din of Bet Knesset. That's considered a house, right? The only way a minyan in a house is considered a Bet Knesset if there's a Aron Kodesh, and it's a place that people actually, like some of community members have that. They have a Sefer Torah at home. But if it's just a group of people that they decided to pray at home, that's not all right. So we'll see a few opinions to why there's a difference between Bet Knesset, that even if you're what did we say? We said that if you're at home, even if you're not doing anything, you don't have to get up. But we mentioned like this. We said, but it's worthy to get up. Why is it worthy to get up? I thought you said if I'm not in Bet Knesset, I don't have to. So few opinions. The Shibolelek, it says like we said, because there's Shekhinah. At the end of the day, there's Shekhinah. So you want to be right, sit, but honor the Shekhinah. If you can't, stand up. The Meiri says, you're going to confuse him. He's praying, you're sitting. He can't focus when someone is right in front of him, so stand up. Some of you may say, why is it easier to focus when someone is standing in front of me than when he's sitting in front of me? I get the question. I have the same question. But it seems like Chachamim understood that when someone is standing in front of you, it's not as a distraction as when he is sitting before you. The Tur says, what's the problem with you staying sitting? It looks like you're not mekabel ol malchut shamayim. The Shekhinah is here. There's ol malchut shamayim. There's the presence of God, and you're chilling. Show respect, all right? And the Taz says finally that the land that someone is praying during Amidah is called Adumat Kodesh. It turns into a holy land. Since the land is holy, how can you stand before holy land? Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha, take your shoes off. You're standing in a holy place. When somewhere is holy, how can you stay sitting and relax and therefore stand up? So these were 4 opinions to why, even though you have the right to sit down, it's worthy to stand up. All right. Next topic is, the man behind me starts saying, Teilot lekel elyon go'alam baruch hu mevorach. What do I understand? That he's about to start Amidah. So I don't want to have to stand. Let me sit quickly. If I sit before he starts, it's mutar. Can I do that? The answer is yes. If I'm sitting before he started Amidah, I'm allowed to do that trick. But, says the Yalkut Yosef, careful not to do it in a way that it looks like you're trying to trick the system. Meaning, sit in a nonchalant way. Don't be like, you know how sometimes the Kaddish is about to start, somebody grabs their seat, I don't have to stand another minute for the whole Kaddish. So don't do that when the guy behind you is about to start Amidah. Grab your seat. Okay, I sat on time. If you make it look obvious, again, it's a little bit disrespectful for all the other reasons that we mentioned, the Shekhinah or the holy, whatever it is. But if you're sitting there and you're continuing with your Siddur or with your learning, as we said, that won't be a problem. Now, to Steve's question, what is considered a boundary? Obviously, if there's a wall, if there's a door between us, then he could sit there. It's not bothering me. We're in a different presence. But what if we are in the same presence? If there's organized seating, is that okay? Some are lenient to say that if it reaches 10 tfachim, 80 centimeters, and it's connected to the ground, maybe there's room for leniency. But really, says the Yalkut Yosef, no. He says, even if there is a glass wall between you and him, as long as he sees you, the distraction is there, and therefore the law applies that he would have to stand. So, to answer your question, the seatings in social hall, or either even in Rabbi Chaim's minyan in the morning over there, they won't be sufficient as a distance between me and him to say I'm in a different territory, I'm allowed to sit. The guy behind me, I know this is a hard halacha because people don't apply it so much, but if someone is praying Amidah, there's a problem to sit before him, and this is just sitting. We haven't even begun passing before somebody, which is also very complicated.
It happens a lot at the repetition of the Amidah. A lot of people just say it after the Kedusha.
Right. It's not forbidden to sit during the repetition if no one is behind you. Only it's more right to stand up during the chazara. But if someone is weak, someone is old, you're not gonna say, "Hey, you're not allowed to sit down." It's allowed. Better to stand up. Sometime a student came to Rav Ovadia and told him, "Rabbi, I'm embarrassed. I learned that I'm supposed to stand during the chazara, but I see that the Rav is sitting. I don't want it to seem like I think I'm more holy than the Rav. Should I sit down?" Rav Ovadia says, "Tzaddik, don't worry. I'm old. I'm there. I'm allowed to sit down. You stand up." So here you see it's worth to stand up in the chazara. In fact, according to the Kabbalah, the chazara is in a higher place than the actual Tefilat Amidah. When you're all alone with Hashem, you think, wow, we always learn, according to the Pshat, simple interpretation, why is the chazara? Those that don't know how to pray, we're motziyei de chovah, and that's the simple interpretation. But in depth, according to the Kabbalah, it steps, and now you've reached a higher level. The Amidah of the Shaliach Tzibur is even in a higher level. So if you can't stand, Hashem should give us health and strength to always stand in the Amidah with Hashem.
Sorry, excuse me. If there's an elderly praying in front of you, and he finishes the Amidah and he's looking and he's looking behind, he notices, oh, you're extending, right? If it's extending, are you supposed to? It's an elderly. I'm not talking about the young person necessarily. And are you supposed to finish Amidah sooner so that he can sit down, or because he might be noticing? I mean, is that the level of respect for an elderly comes to point during Amidah, or no? There's no.
If we are the leniency for an elder is because even though it's recommended to stand during the chazara, it's not an obligation. So the elder may sit. We're not talking about if he's sitting and I'm in front of him. If he wants to sit, even though he's elder, he shouldn't sit right before me. Take 2 seats to the side or whatever it is and sit over there. All right? I recommend to people that pray a very long time, and those that pray a long time, no. Let me tell you, maybe we'll end with the story. The recommendation, first of all, is that if you know you're praying a long time, go next to a wall. Don't try not to be a problem for other people. Story happened to me last week. I was learning the halacha, preparing the shiur, and there's this kid that always he's last in the Bet Knesset. When I go to Mincha, he's standing, he's praying, and everybody passes by him, and he always decides for some reason to stand in the front. So every time I said, what am I going to do? I stay, I learn a little bit, I go. This time he was praying. I said, you know what? It's worth to teach us. He's such a good boy. I'm jealous of his Tefilah. I see him praying. Wow, what is the kavanah? Maybe I'll wait until he finishes. I'll say, dear boy, I'm sure in Shemaim your Tefilah is so loved. Just know, maybe it's best you stick yourself to the wall so that. So I was waiting. So I sat down. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. Let me open a book. This is taking way too long. After 20 minutes, I see this 13-year-old boy talking to Hashem, crying. It's not a one-time. Every day he prays like this. I got so moved. I said, I'm going to criticize him. So I leaned on the opinion that we'll learn. Next week we'll learn that there's an opinion that says that if someone is blocking the path, as bishat adchak, in the time that it's uncomfortable, you're allowed to pass. I said if my wife is worried for me at home, she's going to get upset. That's bishat adchak. I'm allowed to leave right now. Better not to, disturb this guy's tefillah. No question, but I was inspired. All right, gentlemen. Chazak u'baruch. We'll continue from here next week.
Zach Baruch, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Ziv.
you.
Thank you so much.
Baruch.
Thank you.